Hey, hello, hello, hello. And how are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. Once again, we have a deconstruction story. This is one of those things I love to engage in. I love hearing about people's deconstruction stories. It does something for me. I absolutely love it because a lot of us are walking away from religion. A lot more people are starting to figure things out. And so, um, once upon a time, when you say, when you talk about atheists, people assume it is white man, blonde hair, glasses, professor with his glasses down there, like haha, speaking like he's speaking through his nose, right? Professor looking sort of thing. But it's changing. The face of unbelief, atheism, this is all changing. It's your everyday people. We are waking up and realizing that no, religion, no, there really wasn't anything to it. And so today, guys, get yourselves ready. This one is going to be good. I am dead excited. Hey, Alpha Charm, good to see you. I am dead excited about Jeff's story. Listen, get yourselves ready. And as you're coming in, please make sure to give the stream a thumbs up. Now, moment of truth. Before we do anything, let me get my hey Wolfom from Sixam. Wolfom from Sixam. Hello. All right, let's see. Let me get the thing ready while we get right there we go. Okay, so here we go. Hey Jeff. Right, let's
Hello, I'm so excited. What an introduction. I love it.
exactly. Right. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Hey
I'm
Jeff. Oh wow.
over the moon
Finally,
here. Yeah,
finally, finally get you here. Oh, this is wonderful.
let me just adjust my lights a little bit. Cool. So, yeah, I'm excited to be on here. I think it's important to talk about people's deconstruction stories. Everybody has their own. Um it is for every single person. Sometimes it's a short journey, sometimes it's a long journey. um I really believe that when people go through deconstruction, before they do, they really have to think about what that means.
Mm,
um because it's not always an easy thing, but it is an important thing to like challenge your beliefs and
it is.
to be able to interrogate, especially the core beliefs that you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Jeff, tell us about yourself, right? Tell us who are you and yeah, just tell us something. Let's figure you out before we hear your story.
Okay, so at heart, I'm a person who likes to think. I like to think about things. Um, I live in Florida, and I live here with my wife. We have two dogs and just a regular everyday life. But when I'm not doing the things that are automated, like waking up, going to work, having breakfast, having lunch, that I'm always thinking about stuff. I like to think about what it is about life that I have assumed, why I have assumed it. How can I tell whether something that I assume to be true is actually true? I love all of those thoughts. And so in that, I get involved in a lot of conversations with friends, with people on TikTok, with people on other platforms, and I try to when when I'm allowed, I try to challenge their beliefs as well. Um, and so that's the core of me is I like to think and get to the truth of things and see what methodology gets us there the best,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
That does make sense. So basically, you're just the everyday person. There really isn't any special, right?
No.
You're just living life and just engaging with people on a day-to-day basis, especially about beliefs. I mean, I've met you on TikTok and I've heard you challenge people's beliefs, and I love the way you do it. You've got a very unique style. I love the banter. I love the humor that you bring in. It's always something. It's always, the way you go about it. Never really offensive. Never really trying to upset, but you get to the nitty gritty. You get to um you get to the core of the
Yeah.
matter, and I absolutely love that, especially when it comes to philosophy. I love when you start talking philosophical. I think, okay, Jeff is the man for the philosophy conversations. Mm-mm.
I I like that you mentioned the humor. I use humor to try to bring people's defense mechanisms down, because, and this is something I get from a friend of mine. This isn't my thought, but when somebody is in a conversation and their core beliefs are challenged, something happens in the brain. Like they get what we call an amygdala response, and all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
walls come up, and they don't want that to be challenged. So sometimes things like humor, things like uh, giving them a sentence that they didn't expect to happen, bringing them to the water like one step at a time, it makes that process easier. And at the end, they can keep that belief. That's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. I just like when people understand that everybody has their own standard for adopting a belief. And just because somebody took something and said, "Hey, I think this is true," that doesn't mean that the rest of us are going to also just adopt it. And so taking them through that journey kind of brings them onto my side of the fence so that they can understand it's okay if other people don't believe what you believe.
Mm. Okay, so tell us about your deconstruction journey. And I think with your journey, it is unique. Um, so I don't know if you know, I've got two sons.
Hmm.
Well, both of them, they're not religious at all. But my first one, he is 21 and has never ever been religious. It has never happened for him. So when I was a Christian, would take him to church, and I tried everything. I tried everything humanly possible to get him to be a Christian. But everything I tried never worked. He just could figure it out from that tender age that there wasn't anything to this Bible. The Bible never made sense. The church services, the ceremonies, the none of it ever made sense to him. I mean, I remember going to church, and it was like dragging a mule, right, that didn't want to move. But I'm thankful now that he figured this out, and it has never been a thing for him at all. Right. And so your story is unique because you started very, very young, which is rather unusual. So, yes, please go ahead, and we want to hear that story.
So yeah, I went through most of the Roman Catholic sacraments: baptism, confession, communion, confirmation, and a little while after my confirmation, which was around when I was 16, I went. Um, I had already been having some unease because when I went through all of the catechism and Bible classes, every time I had a question that was like unorthodox, the response was always about the same. It was, this is what it is, and this is why we do it. It was either down to tradition, it was either down to dogma, and it was just something I had to accept. And for the most part, because it was the religion, I was okay with it. But there came a time, and this is going to sound silly, but it really like spoke, like it hit me in the stomach. There came a time where I was volunteering to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the unhoused community in the city that I lived in. And we were doing this at the church. And at the same time, it just so happened that um, Pope John Paul II was doing a speech, and he had all the pomp and circumstance and like all the big old buildings and gold and silver and all this stuff. And I thought about it and I said to myself, um, here's this person who's the leader of my church, the person that I'm supposed to look at for anything that God says. There are unhoused people in my community, and the best that our church can give them is crudely made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches made by a 16-year-old Dominican boy. And so I went to the priest and I said, what's up with that? Talk to me about that. And he said, we do what we can with what we have. And in that moment in my head, it clicked because I said, but what we have is a God. I thought, like, if we have a God, then we should do what we have with that, not like what I'm doing is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And that's not to say that God should be a genie, but like if that God does exist, why is the only thing I'm giving people peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? And so that hit me. It just started a thought on me like, okay, this doesn't make sense. The dogma, okay, but like this specific thing doesn't make sense. And from that point forward, I just noticed so many more things. I've been to all manner of Protestant churches. I've been to um, all manner of different denominations of Christian churches. I've had conversations for a while. I was researching Buddhism for a long time. Um, every time that I got to a point where we look at a theistic proposition, it got to a point where the people are doing a thing and crediting this God or some other God with the the credit for doing the work. And so after that, there's a long journey of me reading up on philosophy, reading up on epistemology, reading up on different ways that we can know things. And that's helped me in the arena of like talking politics and things like that. But when it comes to talking about God, it just becomes more and more obvious that this is more than likely and probably definitely a man-made thing to allow people to deal with the things they don't understand. And so generally that, I mean, for the most part, that's really the journey. Um one thing I can tell you is the difference with me is my parents are really supportive of my thought process. They are still religious, but they haven't like disowned me or anything like that. I have
Yeah.
other relatives that are super religious, and in some cases, I kind of had disowned them for some of their
Mm.
conduct, but but I haven't had to face much of the things that unfortunately a lot of people have had to face when they go through deconstruction. And for that, I think I'm fortunate.
Because that would have been one of my questions about family. How did family react to your no you no longer believing in the religion that they do believe in? And so you started off in the Catholic Church. Um, so what age would you say this completely stopped making sense to you? At what age do you have like an age? Could you put an age to it?
I would say around 16, 17, I was pretty well set on it doesn't make sense. Like
Hmm.
this is I'm gone from this. I gave every other denomination a chance only because there are so many people around me that accept it. And so something in my head said, I want to give, like, these are people I care about. These are people that I respect in other areas. And so I want to give this a good faith attempt at trying to reconcile it. But it just never, from that point on, it just never really fused for me. Like it, from that, it never coalesced.
Hmm. So, so you, for the most of your adult life, you were not religious at all.
No. I mean, I I'm very charitable with other people. So doing the traditional things, like I would go to a friend's house and they say grace. I'm perfectly okay with that. Um, Joining somebody to go to their church. I fortunately have not forgotten any of the traditional Christian things that you do, right? I know the prayers and things like that. I don't mean them, right? And I don't participate in the things that I'm not comfortable participating in. But as far as um being religious, no, I haven't been religious. I would say for my entire adult life.
Oh
Um,
wow.
if I've had friends that wanted me to attend their church for some reason, or for example, um, you know the story of my friend that passed away. He
Yes.
was
Yes.
deeply religious, and so attending his funeral and or attending other people's weddings or things like that. Um, I'm not the type of person who I'm not going to go and wear my atheism on my sleeve and just tell people, this isn't real, right? Like if I'm sharing about Santa Claus. Um, but as far as me personally believing in any of it, I don't think I ever from the moment that I told you, I don't think I have at all.
So tell me then, what makes you so interested in the conversation? Because you're very much clued up when it comes to the God conversation. I call it the God conversation because everything centers around the God character, and so um, what makes you then interested? Because most of the people that I have met in this in deconstructing space, a lot of them, were deeply religious people, lived the religious life, and somehow everything fell apart. And so they come away on the other side with lots of struggles and trying to find identity, trying to find meaning after leaving religion. So for you, you weren't religious at all for your the most of your adult life. And so now, I mean, what makes you want to engage in that conversation? What is the drive for you?
Understanding people are complex. I'm going to give you a scenario. Every time that I go to the supermarket, I wave my hand in front of the door as if I'm using the force to open it, every time without fail. If I'm opening or closing a door, sometimes I instinctively wave my hand as if I'm closing the door or opening the door with the force. In my actual brain, I do not think the force is real. It's just a thing I've done since I was a kid because I love Star Wars. Love it, love it, love it. And I would love nothing more than to be a Jedi Knight. But I know it's not real. So I don't live my life as if I was a Jedi Knight. I'm not looking to build a lightsaber. I'm not looking to um, uh, create a temple to the midichlorians or anything like that. It's just a thing I do. And so I'm very curious for people who adopt the God belief. If it's a thing they do, which for some people it is, or if it's something that drives their day to day.
Hmm.
The people for whom it drives their day to day, that's where my interest is. Because if you have a belief, generally that belief informs your actions. And if you're adopting a God that tells you certain things are okay, or if you're just adopting a principle where a God, the proclamations of a God are the things that are okay, well, then you're going to bleed that over into your regular life. And so for me, if all you're doing is going to church on Sunday for the community of it, and you're going to and you read the Bible when you have um a hard experience or a rough time, and it's something to allow you to cope with your life, that I'm not going to say I'm not interested in it, but I'm more understanding of that, because life is difficult. But for the but when you take that and you say, I'm going to use this belief and I'm going to apply it to my voting record. I'm going to use this belief and I'm going to apply it to how I treat people outside of my faith. I'm going to use this belief and I'm going to use it to excuse the bad behavior of others. That's where now my ears perk up and I say, why? Why are you doing that? What is it about this belief that allows you to ignore like the inner moral compass that you have, and in some cases be okay with some behavior that we would say that's crazy, like, you why are you doing that? But the response in some cases is, well, I've prayed on it, right? Or God understands why this is happening, and things like that. So that's really why I engage in the conversation. I try to let people know that if they have that belief and it's just a thing that they have, but they're not going to be a bigot, or they're not going to be a violent person, or they're or even in the case where they say this is what the only thing that's preventing me from doing horrible things. Have it, have the belief. That's fine. But if you say I have this belief, and then when I see people engaging in like actions that are harming others, I'm going to excuse it because God knows why he did that. I want to expose that thought process and show why it's a problem.
Hmm. Exactly. Absolutely. I love that you you said that, because when I'm having conversations with people, sometimes I ask myself, can they not see it? Can they hear themselves? It's like when I came away from religion, right? It's like scales fell off my eyes, right? It's like a new world opened up to me. And I started asking myself, how did I believe these things once upon a time? How did these things make sense once upon a time? Right? And I think with religious people, they it's just, I don't know what it is. They just can't see it. They just can't. There's a block, right? I don't know if you can describe. I can't even put it in words, right? It's just, there was something. You just can't see it until you're on the other side. And then you start to realize that no, none of this makes sense. None at all. Mm-mm.
Some of the motivators that I've seen are, for example, there is a reason outside of everything else. Uh, for instance, say when you were really young, a family member passed away, and you didn't really grieve that family member, but you know in your heart you're going to see them again, and you hold on to that belief. There are other things that are less important than that belief, right? And so you're going to defend that belief to the ends of the earth. And in
Mm-hmm.
some sense, I'm understanding of that. For other people, you know what? I'll give you the bad end of this. There are some people who need to justify their supremacy, right? Like they want to justify why it is that they are better than you. And all they
Mm-hmm.
care about, like I call those people who care about the W, right? I say a lot that
What's the W?
the win. They
Oh,
want the
the
win.
win.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
When I'm having these conversations, I tell people a lot, like, you can write the W in your journal. Nobody else cares, right? Like
Mm,
I don't
mm.
I don't care if you got a W over me. That's fine. But because all they care about is the W, when you bring them down the path of what they're believing and you say to them, okay, hey, this means that you're okay with bad things happening to babies. And
Mm,
they'll say, yeah, but they're not even thinking that they're saying, yeah, they're just thinking, I don't want the L. I don't want to lose. I just want to say I'm okay with the thing. Right. And so in that case, that's really dangerous because you're so intent on the W that you're not even thinking about what you just said. And so now when you're out in your regular life and you're like, okay, if I say no to this proposition or this law that wants to get passed, or if I say no to my church doing a thing, or if I say no to this thing I heard about the pastor, then that means it's possible that God is false. And you're so
mm,
tied to it that you almost become okay with it. Right? Like we've seen statistics where um and one of our mutuals talks about this on TikTok where uh people who are offenders of a certain type, I don't want to, you know,
mhm, mhm.
they tend to gravitate
No,
towards.
you can say stuff on this platform.
Oh,
On
okay.
YouTube,
I'm
oh goodness. Yeah,
I'm
YouTube
so
can,
used to being
oh
TikTok
yes, please
friendly.
go ahead.
So
Oh
so like sexual offenders, right? Like
yes, right.
they get surveyed and they say that they gravitate towards churches
Mm,
because generally people when they find out about this stuff, they try to pray for the offender. And they go, something is off with a person in my flock. Let me pray for them to get better. And there's all the victim's almost an afterthought, right?
mm,
And so that gives me pause. And I think that the people who are doing that are not bad people. I think that there is a reason that they have over here that makes it so that they can ignore this over here. So like if there's an existential crisis that they don't want to get to, or if they're, you know, on the more sinister end, really are tied to the idea that they are better than the other person,
right.
well, they're going to be okay with adopting certain beliefs, and they may not even know that they're doing it. They may just say, okay, we're going to pray for this person now, and then next thing you know, they just excused away, you know, sexual assault or rape or something even worse, right? And you're right that it is a block. It is like a
Mhm,
mental thing.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and my best weapon against that is just having that conversation and really pointing it out. Like when somebody says, "Yeah, baby cancer is, I guess, okay," just repeating that back to them. Like, do you realize what you just said? Do you understand the entailment of what you just said? A few weeks ago, I invited somebody to, once they said it, like, well, in that case, I'd like you to go to St. Jude and inform all the parents there that they're just looking at it wrong. That it's okay that their babies are dying of
mm,
cancer. It's just a perspective thing. And maybe if they realize how silly that is, that they want to go to, they're actually thinking about going to the hospital and telling people, "Hey, rejoice for this thing is great that's happening to you. The worst thing that could possibly happen to a parent. It's great for you, right?" Um, I hope it shocks them out of that state, you know.
I mean, I've got you talk about politics. Politics is not one of my favorite subjects. I stay away because not that way inclined at all. But I've got a video for you. Uh, hang on a second.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let's see here. 1 second.
Hey, bud. What are your thoughts right now? We have a great country. That's my thoughts. Greatest country in the world. Great. We will make it even greater.
Okay, I'm not sure what's happened
It won't take long.
with him.
It's not going to take long to see what's going on. It's coming back. It's coming back strong. It'll be greater than ever before.
Do brother wish to further inflaming tensions by using the U.S. military to practice? Are you prepared to fight them against the Are you prepared to use the U.S. military against the
I mean, Jeff, the man, he has his Bible. He is like this, showing the Bible like this, right?
Mhm.
Now, there's not a lot said here, but this video epitomizes the state of the political scene, the state of religion in the US. I was watching this thinking, what on earth? What is this? What is this person doing? Why is this significant? Right? So please, I don't know what is in your mind right now, because right now there was that debate 2 days ago. Listen, I can't even, I don't know where to begin with that. But yeah, what are your thoughts? This is what the religious people, is this what they want to see? Is this what they want? They
Um, I laugh because the entire video, beginning to end, like I don't even tie it to religion, to be honest. I think
oh,
it's like an empty performative show of like if I'll put it this way, if I was a religious person, I would be offended by that, and I would say I don't claim that. But
no,
um
no, no, Jeff. I don't think you would be offended. I don't think you, I think you would be, you probably be clapping for this. You probably, well, okay, you know what? Let me not say that, because I don't know. You might be offended. Okay. But a lot of people were excited by this. A lot of people were like, yes, this was like the cementing of that idea that he was God sent. This is
well,
ooh,
because the when when I look at this video and I see exactly what he said there, right? I think, what do you mean by this country is going to be greater?
mm-mm.
What do you mean by we're coming back in a big way? Those seem like empty words to me. And then to tie that to the Bible, I'm sure there are people who are religious who don't give it a second thought. They don't understand the ramifications of like what's happening around this scene. The fact that there's like military action happening against protesters in this very scene. Um, they don't think about that. They only think about like their icon holding their book. But those are people who may not have read the book, right? Like there are the religious people I'm thinking about are ones that hold the belief not as a thing that they're doing on Sundays and it's just a sticker that they wear on their cheek. It's the people who are reading it constantly and um oh, you're welcome, TT. But it's the people who are
Thank you, Titi. Very supportive. I've seen her in the Discord, and very supportive. Thank you, Titi. A threat.
yeah.
My answer is a threat. Oh,
And
sorry. Mikey says, "Hey, Mikey says that's from the BLM summer. Evangelicals treat him as a useful idiot. He is not thought of as a religious leader. He doesn't quote the Bible." So, but
Yeah.
why is this significant though? If it's not quoting from this book, why is it significant that he would stop traffic just to go and stand in front of this building and to hold his Bible? What is the idea? And for the religious people that look at this and you think, okay, this is what do you get from this? What is
It's performative nonsense because I'll put it this way. Like, think about when Barack Obama was in office. And I wasn't a huge fan of Barack Obama outside of, he most Democrats in the United States would be center right everywhere else. But Obama was somebody who you could see from before he even ran for office was a religious person and went to church um every single Sunday. Had a
hmm,
specific church that he went to, had records of him going there, of his membership, etc., with the family and everything. And they were like, this isn't our guy. He's not religious. He's not godly. This man that's on the screen right now couldn't tell you what's the difference between first and second Corinthians. He couldn't spell Corinthians if you paid him $1 million to do it. That's the godly man. And so
mm-mm,
that's why I say it's performative nonsense, because the people who look at him as, I'm glad that he's referred to as a useful idiot, but the people who think that he's God sent, that he's the guy, right? Those are people who are not really thinking too hard about their beliefs. And to be honest, I don't think they are people who would engage in the activity of a dialogue to inspect their beliefs. They're just happy to say, I'm a Christian, or I believe in the Bible, or this God is my God, without too much pressure or interrogation. They don't care to interrogate their beliefs. And then, from there, it just is what it is. You're right, Mikey. He can't name the Trinity 100%. I don't think he can name it 33%. Oh, he did? I didn't know he called it 2 Corinthians.
mm.
That's funny.
Hey, Al. Right. Hey, Juad. Right. If anyone has any questions for Jeff, please, you can ask your questions. But you know, you live in the US and you see the state of things at the moment. Um, the debate that happened a few days ago, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Um, I'm not sure what to think. I'm not sure what to feel. But everything I've seen so far, it's not looking, it's not encouraging. It's not, it just, sometimes I wish I think I'm in a dream. I'm going to wake up and it's not real, that this is the best America has got. And yeah, but what are your thoughts though?
Um, the I think that we're in a stage where you have people who are activists and everybody else. And throughout our history, the people who were activists were the ones moving the needle. From as far back as the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and up until today. And so the thing that I think people have become is comfortable and complacent with the state of affairs as it is in this country. As long as it's not affecting them, it's it's something they see on the news. They don't like it. They can talk about it at work, but they just keep it moving. And so what I think is happening in this country is that because people do not participate in the entire civics process, we now have two people who I would say are not fit for doing the thing that they they're running for. Like, they're not fit for that office, right? Um and therefore this is what we have. We have what we created. Um, because people are complacent, right? It gives room for the the real, I guess, the radical people. In this case, in this country, it would be like the radical right, Christian nationalists, things like that. Where in the past we would look at them and say, you're nuts. I'm not doing that.
Mm,
Now
mm,
they are driving the conversation because the rest of everybody else looks at them on the news. Like, think about when you see a Trump rally and how many people are sitting in their living room going, yeah, but that's not me though. But they'll still pull the lever for that guy, right? That's who's representing you. And because they're complacent, they're okay with that. Oh, Mikey, as far as a country I've picked out to live in, I haven't yet, but we do. We are in talks. we are
oh,
in talks for where to go.
oh, really?
Should anything hit the fan, it's not far away from a possibility of what we're going to be doing next. I don't want anybody to think that if Trump got into office, that's the end of everything. We've been like, I don't like the term unprecedented
Okay.
in a history where we've had people getting on the street, on the news, getting hit with fire hoses, in a history where we've had entire cities turned into lakes in this country, right, by this government, in a history where we've had, you know, for the first close to 100 years, slavery, right? There isn't much that I would say is unprecedented. It's
Mm,
just uncomfortable to come to that truth that this is the soul of this country. Because while we're in times where it's comfortable for everybody and everything is not in their face, they ignore the things that are going on, right? People talk about the boom in the 90s with the internet while ignoring that the 94 crime bill was ravaging cities and dumping people into a prison industrial complex. That was still happening back then. We see it as happening now more, but that's because it's in our face more, right? So Trump, Donald Trump is not a good guy. He's not a qualified person. But look, if you look at our history of presidents and read into it, like, here's a factoid that a lot of people don't realize. Abraham Lincoln wrote that if he could keep the Union together without freeing a single slave, he would do it. A lot of people don't realize that. That's our history. We forgot, and this is Abraham Lincoln, the guy who freed the slaves. That's the guy who's credited with freeing the slaves. He wrote in a letter that if he could do it without freeing slaves, 100% would do that.
mm,
So, what does that tell you? This is just another one of those people. So, I don't want anybody to lose hope. Just keep working at it. And we want to encourage people to be more civic minded. We want to encourage people to bring it back to the conversation, challenge your beliefs. Like, sometimes it works on the opposite end too. There are people like there's a saying that we have in some of the other groups that I'm in where we say, what about Biden? And that's a joke that we say when we say Trump did this thing and somebody goes, what about Biden? Sometimes it works in the opposite way too. So like if I have a critique on Joe Biden, the response that I'll get is, what about Trump? Right? So that's also something where we can critique people's beliefs and hold our public servants accountable for
mm.
what we want them to do. But it's not over till it's over. That's just, I just have to say that 100%. It's not over till it's over.
Not over until it is over. And I mean, just for me, it was I think the day that it really hit home was on the day of the insurrection, and just watching people um, just doing a lot of damage to the building, and as though this is This is ours. This is it's my right. I can do this at the behest of this man, all caused by this man here. Um, Jeff, I don't know if you know that over in Africa, there are many Christians that were very much in support of this man. I was in debates with people who were saying that he is from God. This is God's chosen man for America at the time, and people were holding rallies. They were doing prayers, vigils. They were. It became a big thing. I've got videos of people rallying on a Sunday. They come to church, but then the pastor says, "No, today we're not stopping in the church. We are coming outside with the banners, with music, with, banners. Trump for president in Nigeria, in Africa." Right? This thing was a madness. Right now, I don't know what it's as though maybe they've learned from the last time. So people are not, they're not that whole thing, the way they went out on the streets and the way they were prophesying, right? People came out, pastors came out and were prophesying Trump is going to win. Trump is going to win. And the moment he didn't win, everyone disappeared. I think they've learned. So now there's not much of that going on, but it's the impact of what this man had on the religious people. It it made me think, wow, this is what a belief, right? People that are so convicted by that belief, what you can make people do. Just the other day on Jeff, not Jeff's, what's his name, what's his name, Justin's live on TikTok. There were
Oh yeah.
Christians that came up there and said, the question was, would you, if God told you to do something to your baby or your child, would you do it? And people were saying yes, they will happily do it. How do you how does a belief convince people to be that way? How do they not see it? So what do you think, Jeff? I mean, beliefs, how do people get so um convicted of beliefs? How do they let this get to them in such a way that they can't see outside of the beliefs?
For each person, I think it's a different state of indoctrination. I don't like painting with a broad brush,
Okay,
right?
true,
Like, um,
true.
for some, let's look at Africa, for example. There are pastors in Africa who understand what, and there's a book about this, what, in the US, we call it post-traumatic slave syndrome. But what post-colonization does to people, it
Mm-hmm.
makes them, uh, there's generational trauma that happens, and it makes people more susceptible to um certain ideals and ideologies, and they take advantage of that, right? For the people that are in the pew, when you look at like Nigeria, for example, there are certain things that um untold poverty drives people to do. I think on your live once, I outlined 419 in Nigeria, right?
Oh yes, you did. Yes, you did. That was
I'm
funny. I was thinking, well, oh, you know about all of that? That was
well.
interesting.
One thing that may surprise you is I'm fully in support of 419.
Yes,
Fully
I
in support
heard
of
you
it,
say that.
and the
And the
reason.
rationale that you gave, I thought,
Mhm.
I could see sense. I saw exactly where you were coming from, and you might want to share that here for
Yeah,
people, right?
what I'm
If that's something you want to do.
yeah, absolutely. So just so anybody that doesn't know, 419 is like the Nigerian criminal code for the advance fee fraud. Like the prince that sends you an email about a trunk of cash that they have.
Nigerian prince.
the Nigerian prince emails. And so the advanced fee fraud thing, a lot of people say, how can somebody do that? But you have to think that when somebody is in Nigeria, there is like, I'm going to use a term, an oga, right?
Ah,
The guy at the top, he's collecting money. I'm against that guy. I
right.
don't like that guy. But the 20-something-year-old young men who don't have anything else to do, they could be selling gala apples on the side of the road.
Mm,
That's
mm,
their job that's available. And then whatever money they make and whatever apples they have left over, that's what them and their family eats, right? Or they could go to this guy, go to an internet cafe and send a bunch of emails, and then the dude is going to give them a few $100 and then they can eat steak. Well, if that choice was presented to you and you have nothing else, nobody's hiring, or the people that are hiring are already full, or they're looking for qualifications that you can't get because your education system has been, you know, completely thrashed. I would challenge people here to say, like, what choice would you make if you're in that Jean Valjean situation where it's like either you feed your family nothing but apples and, like, you know, nothing, or you can do this thing where you're copy pasting emails and you get money, right? Um, it's not a good situation to be in. And the people that are being scammed are the very complacent people here who are
mm,
okay with the thing that is being done to the global south. And I don't mean like actively okay. I mean passively okay, in that when there is a critique about it, they just go, I don't like it, but I'm not writing a letter to my congressman about it. I'm not uh, levying a critique. And I'm going to take the prospect of somebody worse potentially getting into office, because this is what I mean about the what about Trump thing. It's
mhm,
not
mhm,
that it's the same critique, right? It is in fact that when I say I have a critique about a person who's in office who's on my side, what about Trump doesn't address that critique? And we could be doing more to saying, hey, the people who I voted for, they're doing something I don't agree with. And so that's why I say, like, hey, when somebody sends out an email and they get, you go to Western Union or Rear or whatever, and you get $250, and that person's never going to see that $250 again.
mhm.
Nigeria is just recouping the money that we just took from them, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to use another term. They may call the person who sent the money a mugu, which is, see, I'm up on the terminology.
You are clued up. You are clued up. Wow.
They may use that term, and just for anybody who doesn't know, mugu is the fool. They may call them a fool, but the true thing is that every year we line up to buy Samsung phones or iPhones or whatever. Every time a new PlayStation comes out, there's a line out the door. Every time we're we may say, oh, the economy is whatever, but compared to the global South, we're sitting pretty, right?
Mm,
And so we don't even give that a second thought outside of like maybe putting an emoji in our profile or going to a live and yelling about it. There's so much more we could be doing to say, hey, let's not do that. And to bring it again to the religious thing is when you're put in that place where you're at the very bottom of the barrel in life, where everything is taken from you and you have a choice of either abject poverty or doing something that may be against even your moral compass to get money, religion seems like something that can help you cope. And so you have a pastor who's coming in a fancy car who says, come into my pew and at the end of this there's going to be glory, or you pray this way and you're going to have money, or whatever it is that the doctrine hits you with. And it, you can see how it is that people can be sympathetic to that, to the sermon, or really want to hear those words. So that there's a lot of things that can bring people to that, and I'm not unsympathetic to it. That doesn't mean I'm going to
Hmm.
become a Christian, but wherever I can, I'm going to try to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I heard you saying that you are married. So I've got a question. Is your wife religious at all?
No, and I try not to influence her journey. She has
Right.
her own beliefs. Some of them
Hmm.
are some of them we agree, and some of them they're separate. I'm fully supportive of whatever beliefs she adopts. Um, and so she's had her own unique journey,
Hmm.
but when it comes to sometimes, when I get off of TikTok, she, we may have a conversation of an argument that I ran, and I'll tell her, well, this is the name of that argument, and this is what it is. But I'm only just giving her a recap, no different than if I was to come home from work and say, this is what happened at work.
Right.
I don't want her to adopt the view that I have. I want her to come to her
Mm.
own view.
I see.
And the parts that are complementary are cool. The parts that are not, those I love because that's her unique perspective. That's her unique belief. And it makes her who she is. So, like, if I was to take that away, then I'm saying that I don't like the way my wife is, which is a weird stance for me to take. Like, I love my wife because she is who she is. And it doesn't have to, like, 100% agree with my metaphysics or my meta ethics or whatever that is. But in that regard, we do get along, like, remarkably well, even for people who may have different beliefs in some places.
Because well, for some people who are uh they're not believers, men that I've spoken to, the chances that their partners are still religious, the ones I've engaged with, the chances that the partners are still religious usually very high, and it poses its own kind of issues, right? Just navigating that life at home and having a wife who is still very much, you know, wants to go to church and wants to do, the godly things. And, of course, when you're in church, you want your husband right next to you and all these things. Um, I mean, I've had someone come and share about his wife. Um, at first she would say, "We need to go to church. We need to go to," but now she has stopped pestering. She on a Sunday now just, okay, I'm off, bye bye, and she doesn't bother him anymore. But he can tell that she would love for him to come along. She he can tell, but for now she just lets him be. There's another gentleman on YouTube who's I've been on his channel. He's going through a divorce right now. Um, and it's painful just hearing that they couldn't work it out. Him being now he's no longer a believer, but she's still a believer. And that is, they're not seeing eye to eye anymore. And, she's said no more. And so for you, I'm quite pleased that you have that kind of relationship with your wife, because beliefs, my goodness, they impact on your relationships, they impact on your job, they impact on everything. So yeah, when you talked about your wife, I was just curious to know whether
Mhm.
this isn't an issue for you, because for some people, oh, it's hard.
It almost seems silly when I think about it to say, like, to me, a church is nothing more than a building. That's it,
Mm.
right? It doesn't offend me that it's there. It doesn't change anything about me. Like, when I drive by a church and I see people going in, I drive by Walmart and I see people going in. I have the same feeling for both. So if my wife wanted to go to church and that was important to her, yesterday I told you we were celebrating her birthday. We
Oh,
were
yes.
right,
Happy birthday to the missus.
and my nephews have been watching Star Wars. They've been introduced, like my brother-in-law has introduced them to Star Wars one movie at a time. And I sat with them the other night and I watched Return of the Jedi at their house. Now they came to my house yesterday and they wanted to watch another Star Wars movie. And we all sat on the couch on my wife's birthday. She doesn't like Star Wars. Not that she hates it, but it's not her cup of tea. And she sat through watching 2 hours and 11 minutes of Revenge of the Sith with my nephews. What's the difference between her sitting down and watching a movie that I like that she may not like, and me going to a church and sitting down for something that's really important to my wife, if that were the case? To me, there's no difference. It may not be important to me, but if it's important to her and it gives her whatever, I can 100% sit down with her. Mikey, you're wild.
Right?
Oh yeah, no. Oh, okay. If it's about Star Wars, yeah, she's objectively wrong and she has to love Star Wars. But what I'm saying is, it's not a big deal for me to sit for an hour or two in a pew and listen to somebody read from a book that I've read a dozen times already, right? Um it's it almost seems to me to say, like, what if it's just a building that I don't believe in? What's the big deal about me supporting her in something that she does believe
Mhm.
in, you know? Now, if there's a big difference, if she was taking that belief and all of a sudden saying, I don't like black people, well, I'm Afro Latino, so that's going to be a problem. If she's going to take that belief and suddenly say, well, I think we should kick puppies, we can have a conversation about that. That's separate. But if she's going to church because it gives her, peace, and this is for anybody. If your spouse needs something to give them a good feeling, there's nothing wrong with supporting them in that. Like, zero. I don't want to tokenize, but some of the closest friends that I have in my life are devout Christians, and I can support them in our relationship as friends without having to attack their Christianity. And oftentimes I'm friends with them because our values align. And so if our values align already, if they agree with the things that I agree with, and they just have a different reason to get to that conclusion, that's perfectly fine by me. Oh, and just to
So
be
yeah,
clear, my wife, like, we don't go to church, but I'm just saying, if she did, like, this is just a hypothetical. Like, if she
okay.
suddenly said to me, like, I need, I'm this is where I am in my journey and I want to go to church every Sunday. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Would you go with her?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's nice. That's awesome. I mean, there was a comment that Mikey put here, which I thought was very important. He said, "My wife and I are compatible. Our beliefs are not. We
Exactly.
love each other more than our beliefs."
Yeah, that's perfect.
Beliefs. But, unfortunately, a lot of the people, Jeff, that we do come across, they do the opposite. They choose the beliefs more than um, the feelings, more than, um, showing empathy to people. The beliefs make them become less sensitive and um, just, they can be sometimes very mean to people because of the beliefs. And that, to me, is one of the things that makes me not want to stop what I'm doing, just keep on going and keep on, having these conversations, because you want people to start to realize that, these beliefs can be toxic, really
Yeah.
toxic, and they filter through to your, your life, your everyday life. It has a way of, impacting on you without you even realizing. People start to they start to, choose friends based on the beliefs. They start to, segregate, and they start to treat people differently because you don't believe what I do, you don't go to the same church as me, you don't, we're not in alignment, we're not together in this. You're not my brother
Yeah.
in the Lord, you're not my sister in the, hello, come on, we're
You know what?
humans.
You know what a good test is, and I only got this a little while after I started engaging with people on TikTok, and that is I bring out, like, to some of my Christian friends that I know in real life that I've known forever. I bring out it Exodus 21 verses 20 and 21 that talks about beating slaves. Every single one of the Christian friends that I have that I bring that verse to, they're like, "That's jacked up. I don't like that. I wouldn't do that. That's no good." They're still Christians, but they can say
Mm,
to my face that beating your slave is bad, right? There's so many people on social media that I've had that conversation with, and they say some manner of thing of either if God says it's okay, then it's okay, or what foundation do you have to say it's wrong? And to
mm,
me, if you can't just say like beating someone for no reason is bad, that's the problem, right? Like that's the actual issue. If you're religious and you can say to me to my face, hey, beating someone is wrong or raping women is wrong. Like if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to cherry pick the parts of the Bible that I think are good, but I'm still going to use my own moral intuition. I think racism is bad and I'm going to fight against it as a Christian. I still think your belief is like not based in reality. I don't think it's real. But what would happen if I was to take that belief away and then you change the conclusion? Well, now I don't have any reason to believe these things. So now I'm going to I'm going to stop fighting against these things. I think for the people who have any belief, there's a different conversation to have between saying this behavior is wrong versus this belief is wrong. You see what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
somebody uses their religion to help little old ladies cross the street, cool. If you
Mm,
want to have a conversation whether or not I think Jesus Christ died and rose on the third day, that's a different conversation on whether or not you should help little old ladies cross the street. Those are two
right.
separate things. And I think compartmentalizing that is a way that we can get to living more compatible, like being more compatible in our in living together as believers and non-believers. Because everybody has a different reason for adopting a belief. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. There are atheists who have a bad reason for being atheists. There
Oh
are
yeah.
atheists who, if you talk to them and you say, why don't you believe in God? They'll say, because a priest told me something and it seemed silly. So God doesn't exist. And you're like, that's a non sequitur. But it's a bad reason. And there are people who behave really well that are Christians and people who behave really badly that are Christians. There are people who behave really nice that are atheists. There are people who are jerks that are atheists. The behavior, I think, is separate from the belief, like every single time. Um, some people have superstitions that cause them to be good people. The superstition is fake. The good person is good, right? That's just how I see it. Um, and I think it's a better way for me not to have to stop every single day that I see somebody with like who's wearing a cross chain or something and just saying, "Hey, give me First Peter 3:15. Give me the reason for the hope you hold in your heart right now."
Mhm.
I- We That's not a good pragmatic approach to life. Um, if we are in an arena Like if somebody was to say, "Hey, I want to join your live right now," Afro atheist, and now we're
Mm-hmm.
in a debate. Now that's different. We're going to talk about why do you think it's real.
Right.
But if it's just a day-to-day thing and you're, giving to charity, you're fighting against oppression, and you just happen to think that that's what Jesus is telling you to do, who am I to tell you not to?
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I mean, now, right? Can you tell us, do you engage in any official sort of podcast? Because I know you've got the end of a species thing, and I went looking to see if there was any sort of official thing going on there. Because I think that your voice, Jeff, it's very much needed in this God conversation. I've heard you speak, and you've got a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge. It is there's so much there, especially when it comes to the philosophical uh, arguments and conversations. And I just want to hear more. I want more, more,
I
more, more
appreciate
from
that.
Jeff. Guys, you guys haven't heard anything. Listen, Jeff is being too nice here. Jeff is being too, he's been too. I think because it's the podcast thing. Maybe because whenever you're having those conversations, you're behind the camera, right? Well,
Hmm.
here maybe because you've got your face out. I don't know. Maybe you're trying to give us the 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 podcast official, no, the professional podcaster look. But my goodness, guys, when Jeff starts going in, oh my, you know what? Just let's see, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do that. How about we listen? This is Jeff's page on this is his page on TikTok, and I will put his uh, um, the link to his TikTok. And also, can you? I'm trying to find the link to your YouTube channel. I can't seem to find it. So please, if you have a TikTok, please make sure to go and find Jeff. Make sure to follow him. And listen, you will thank me. You will thank me when you hear Jeff in these conversations. I think, yeah, you'll come back and say thank you for introducing me to that man. So let's have a look at a couple of his. And hey, Hunter Biden's laptops. Good to see you. Did I just see? Did I just see Gerwalk? I just saw Gerwalk. Hey, Gerwalk. Right. Let's see. What's Jeff going on about here now? Right. Let's see. What's this?
Do the pre
Hold on.
the
Which one?
prerequisites
Which
one.
one?
That's the most important TikTok to me that I've
Prerequisites.
ever
Okay.
made
Yes.
is the one that
Yes.
says
Okay. Go on.
prerequisites.
All right. Let's see.
Hello, TikTok. I want to talk about the 3 prerequisites to having a conversation. Number 1, we have to agree that we're sharing a reality. If you don't agree to that, that's fine. We can end the conversation right there. Number 2, we're going to engage honestly and with logic and reason. If you don't want to be rational, that's also perfectly fine. If you need some mental health referrals, I'll be more than glad to give you those. But we cannot have a conversation. And lastly, we're not going to engage in any lines of thought that end in dehumanizing people.
Mm.
So if your conclusion is Group A is inferior to Group B, I'm not interested. So 3 simple rules: shared reality, honesty, and respect. If you can't commit to those 3, don't bother. We match energy here.
Mm-mm.
Hello, TikTok.
Matching
talk about
of
the 3
energies.
Yeah.
Matching of energies. I love that.
And so
Right.
I'll
Let's
address
see.
all the things. I think this is
3.
this
Okay.
also hits to the question that Mojo had about support for Palestine versus Israel. And so
Right.
my wife may not share in my beliefs, but she shares in my values. Right. And I think that's
Okay.
important.
Nice.
Like I almost make a joke with like, we both don't kick puppies, but we both also don't support oppression, right? So
Mm.
we have conversations like that to make sure that we're aligned in our values. And that also has to do, that also reflects in the fact that she's a public speaker. Like, that's what she does for a living.
Oh, is
And
she?
so when I'm out and about, I it's important, because that's her career, that I'm not out here saying we should annihilate all Christians, because that's not in our
Mm.
values, right? So
Mm.
it's important that if I'm going to say something like that, I have to make sure that it aligns with the values. When it comes to TikTok, the reason I'm like this here and you see me different in TikTok is because I compartmentalize, like, it's like breathing. I compartmentalize everything. When I'm on TikTok, I say this to a lot of my mutuals. I'm a mercenary. I'll get a DM from one of my mutuals that says, there is a person here saying this. And I just have a very singular targeted focus of engaging in that conversation. And whatever tools I have at my disposal, that's what I'll use. Sometimes that gets acrimonious, and that's okay. But that's that Jeff, right? The Jeff
Mm-hmm.
where I'm just having a conversation, that's a different thing altogether. Um, as far as the podcast go, I do have, and I feel bad about this because it's something, procrastination is a crazy thing, but I do have talks in the background for re-engaging with my podcast, and actually just addressing it in a different way. My podcast, The End of a Species podcast, used to have a principle that wasn't addressed in the podcast, and I just thought that was funny. And that had to do with something I really believe to be true. Unless we change, this is it for our species. Like, this is where we've reached our peak, and that has to do with sophistry, complacency, a lot of the topics that I've talked about today. But with that said, um, there very soon, and I think within the next couple of weeks, I am going to be making more content and relaunching that podcast. And I'll give you the link for it once it's up, now that we're in communication.
Yeah.
But I really want to focus on specifically the tent poles that I want to address when I get back in the podcast. I um
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of people that I'm talking to about participating in it. um and most of what it looks like is going to be focused on is how we know things to be true, but from a practical lens of, like, whether it's current events or generally held beliefs, or things of that nature.
Just 1 minute. My son is ringing. Just give me a minute. Just carry on talking to these fine people, Jeff. Uh, they choose their moments, don't they? These
No
boys.
worries. um but yeah, so as far as, even on my TikTok, I haven't really made a lot of content lately, but that's another thing that I plan to I guess address or fix. Um does the chat have any questions for me based on anything that we've talked about so far? Equity for all, including healthcare. I'm all about it. What is the bin podcast empire? Not sure about that, but I'll look it up.
That's Mikey's that's Mikey's uh YouTube, and he has great conversations on there. Let me see if I can find a link to the Bin podcast. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Right.
A lot of eat the rich people on here. I think that's good.
Okay.
Alpha Charm says, this is my favorite question. Since you're an atheist, how would you plan your funeral and service?
That's a good question.
I'll leave that up to the people who care enough to plan it. Me personally, I will either be not here, non-existent,
Mm.
or I will be thinking really, really fast of how to con whatever God I don't believe in into letting me into the club. I can sell water to a well, so I'll come up with that really fast. But I actually don't. The only one I would care about, and I said this to another one of my mutuals, Hanji, the other day, is
Mm.
I would
I
want
love
somebody
Hanji.
to yeah, she's awesome. I would want somebody to give me coins so that I'm not stuck on the wrong side of the river Styx in case the Greeks had it right. But outside of that, the I'll leave it up to whoever is in charge of that to plan it. I did find out a few years ago that it is an option. This is an option to cremate and to get sent into space. It's super
Mm.
expensive, but if there was one thing, um, if there was one thing that I would say, hey, if we're sparing no expense, I would say do that because that sounds cool. Um, so as far as my wife being a believer, she has her own beliefs. I'm not really going to go into them here because I think
No,
that's
no,
more
it's
for
okay.
her to
You don't
discuss.
have to.
But as far as the differences, like what I would just say is just rewind. It is a very good discussion on how to navigate those differences.
I'm trying to find the link to your YouTube channel. I think that's
Um,
it. I think I've put it in the chat. Folks, please make sure to give the channel a follow. I've just put it in. I'm not sure if that's the right um
it
link.
if you
Oh,
do
actually, I found the right link. I found the right one.
okay.
I found Okay, I think this is it here. I found it. So guys, please make sure to give him a follow. Let's see. Copy link, copy link address. And yeah, so hopefully if he starts putting content on there, I think you should some of your conversations, Jeff, you should record them and just put them on anyway, never mind. That's me trying to tell you what to do. No, 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 no. No. Bad. Bad. So but I mean, you take it in your stride. I mean, yeah, the question that I have for you now is, I mean, how are you navigating life as a non-religious person? How does that look like for you, right? Especially considering you live in a country where a lot of people are still quite religious. So how are you navigating life um being a non-religious person?
For me, I feel like I'm privileged in that regard as an atheist because I'm the atheist that you don't want to have that discussion with.
Mm,
That's what I consider myself. I leave everybody be with their beliefs and I expect the same in return. Right now there are a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses that a few months ago had the misfortune of ringing on my doorbell. And a few months later, every time they leave my house, they leave scratching their heads. And I'm
mm,
almost convinced that if they keep coming to my house, they're going to leave the church because we keep having conversations about philosophy and stuff. So like the way I normally handle my day to day is I just live my life. I wake up, I work from home. I wake up, I have uh I have my breakfast, I do work, I spend time with family, spend time with friends. If I meet new people, I talk about the things that people talk about. And sometimes there's a little dude like right behind my right ear, like right around here, and he hopes that people bring up religion.
mm,
That's the dude that gets to talk on TikTok. But for the most part, the whole of me prefers not to discuss it with like regular people that I meet every day. Um if it does come up, to me, it's an easier conversation for me than it is for them, because I've considered I've thought about it so much, right? The average person that's sitting in a pew knows the verses that they tell you in church. And there are so many verses in the Bible, or so many passages in the Bible, that they've never even heard of, that you bring it to them and they're like, or even if you were to say, like, think about this, do this exercise. Go to 1 Samuel 18, 25 25 through 27, I believe. You don't have to do it now. Just write that down. And then don't tell somebody it's from the Bible. Change the names of the people in that specific
Say
3-verse
it again,
passage.
Jeff. Please say it
It's
again.
1 Samuel 18,
First
25 through
Samuel,
27.
First Samuel 18.
Mm-hmm. And
Mm-hmm.
then just change the names of the
Wait,
people involved.
25 to 27? 25
Yeah,
to 27.
25 to
Okay,
27.
right.
And it's a story about Saul and David. And when David wanted to
Oh,
marry Saul's daughter, what
mm-hmm.
Saul made him go do. Take the
Mm.
name Saul and David out of it, completely out of it. And just go up to somebody who wants to have that conversation and say, what do you think of one person telling another person as a dowry to go get 100 foreskins? And what do you think
Ish.
of if that person goes and gets 200 instead? And then show them the passage, right? That to
Um,
me is hilarious. To me,
no, and
right?
and and the foreskins, these are from people who are no longer alive. They're gone. They're
Yeah,
dead.
you have to,
Oh,
the foreskins
mm-mm-mm.
are specifically a factor that you use to
Sure.
show as like, I this is the person I killed, right? And so most people haven't even read that. They don't even know that that exists. And so you
Mm.
bring that up to them. I'm okay with that, right? So it is what it is. But I constantly hope not to have that discussion, because also once the ball gets rolling, there's an endpoint that could lead to start somebody on deconstruction. And I cannot tell you how strongly I believe that people should have informed consent when they're going to start deconstructing. I should not have the like I tell people all the time when they ask me, "Oh, I saw your TikTok. Why don't you believe?" Like if I have that conversation with somebody who knows me from here, I let them know, like, if we're going to have this conversation and it's in real life, like you can't hit the disconnect button when I'm right in front of you. It could lead to some existential stuff for you. So just know that what that means before you engage in this. And I'm not being funny. Just know that could lead to that. Um Alpha Charm, have you ever been discriminated against for being atheist? No. Mm-mm. Matter of fact, in my job right now, I have a really great team that I work with, and they have a whole varying array of faiths, and we work well. Really, we work really well together. So that's like, when I say I'm privileged, I mean it. Like I'm privileged in
Mm.
that regard, as far as like, I know that there are people who do get discriminated against for being atheists. I just haven't had that experience. Doesn't negate anybody else's. It's just, you know, I just I just don't have that.
Hey,
You
did
know.
state next. So guys, we've had Jeff here for an hour, well, nearly an hour, 30 minutes. That's long enough. We need to let the man get off with his get on with his Sunday. I bet his wife, she's more important than anything else. Now, guys, I have put the links to his TikTok and his YouTube in the comments. So please look for those links and make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow. Jeff, give if you were to speak to someone who is right now wondering, why are there so many people starting to speak about God, right? Against God. And they're trying to, that very early stage of, could this be true? Could this not be true? I'll give you an example. My sister, sometimes she's in the chat. She comes in and she's watching on TikTok and here. Sometimes she says to me, "Send the links," and so I can listen to your stream before she uses the stream as her something to listen to in the background while she's going to sleep. A family member sent her some of my videos, and they were shocked that she's now an atheist. What? Does she know what an atheist is? And my sister said to me, when she received those videos, she watched them. She said there was nothing she disagreed with. Nothing at all. I was absolutely correct. And she agreed with everything. She said, but she's not at that state of wanting to um, figure things out. She said, yes, there are things in Christianity that she does not agree with, but she says this is all we've known. This is all we've known, and she's not ready to go down that rabbit hole. She's comfortable just staying here. She knows that if she goes down that rabbit hole, there will be things that that will she will find that will take her away from the faith, but she's not prepared to do it. That's her. And I said to her, I respect that. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to tell you to do anything. If that's if that's what makes you happy, go ahead. But so long as you recognize that there are things that are wrong, because now she's starting to send me videos of people making TikToks and pointing things out in the church that they find troubling. She's sending them to me as though, hey, look what you're talking about. So if you could speak to somebody who is starting to question, who is starting to, could I just be wrong about this belief? What would you say to that person?
Okay, so I'll split that into two. The first one is the reason why people are questioning so much is because we've never been so interconnected communication wise ever. So we are in a point right now where uh, a person who is in the United States, another person who's on the opposite end of the United States, somebody in East Asia, Western Asia, Europe, and Africa can get on a group call and exchange ideas as quickly as easily as tapping a screen. That's how easy it can happen. And so when everybody comes together in communication, it's so much easier to say this idea is good and this idea is bad. You can find that idea in like Genesis 11, where the Tower of Babel story is. And some people think that God was upset at people for trying to get to heaven. No, the God in that story says, if these people work together, there's no telling what they could achieve. And so that I think is huge. And now for the person who is first starting to examine, could this be true? What I would tell that person first is, first, make sure you care whether stuff is true, right? That's first and foremost. And then second, in every other aspect of your life, what process, what method do you use to determine if something is true? Like if I told you I went out to the club last night and I met Busta Rhymes and then he took me for a tour around the city, how would you know if I'm telling you the truth? Would you just accept it,
Mm,
or are there questions you can ask? If you're not doing that same thing that you would do for my Busta Rhymes story for your beliefs about the Bible, then that's something you have to examine, is why is that? Why is that? Why is it that when you see the expiration date on your milk, you still sniff the milk before you throw it out, right? Why is it that you're doing that, but for your religious beliefs, you're not? Because if you don't address that first, you're never going to get to, like, you may just say, I don't like religion and now I'm an atheist. But like I said, that would be a bad reason. So I think the thing I would tell them is to get a good, what we call like an epistemic foundation.
Mm,
Understand what it is that gets you to a thought that's real, and then go on that journey. Start examining. Yeah. Deep state annex, you're 100% right. On both ends. Like, think about there's two things that I'll tell you. The first one is the backlash that the Pope got for being lenient on LGBTQIA issues.
mm,
And
yeah.
then the second one is all of the evangelical pastors that have come out over the past year saying that the people in their groups have come up to them and saying, that's not my Jesus. He's too woke, when they read the Sermon on the Mount, which is the single most cornerstone sermon that Jesus gave. They hear the Beatitudes and they go, that's too woke. So on that end, yes, very much so. On the other end as well, the fact that there are various scandals, not just the ones we know about, but money scandals, all sorts of things that have come out from the church where people just say, this does not connect with my moral compass. It doesn't make sense. And so now I have to make a decision. You know, it's the same as like in the early 2010s, one Republican legislator after another became supportive of gay marriage when their kids came out.
Of
So
course.
now it's affecting me. And so with religion, you say, okay, I can't keep my lights on. The pastor's driving a brand new car.
Mm,
That doesn't jive with me. Um, I went to church and I found out that a girl had been assaulted and everybody was okay with it, but that girl happened to be my niece. So while everybody's praying, I have to sit here and say, did you let that happen? Right? So these are the things that are like from both ends. Like the church, I mean, religion is really getting it from both ends here, where um it's not aligning with the people at large, and so people are walking away.
mm, of course. Of course. Right. I don't think there's any more questions. And please make sure one last time I will put his links in the comments. Let's see here. I will put his links in the comment, and you guys can please can make sure to give him a follow. Go watch. Oh, I, there was something I was trying to do during the week, but somehow completely just forgot. I was going to take a screen recording of you just getting in conversation, but it just never happened for me. So yeah, but you guys make sure to give Jeff a follow, and yeah, he is one of the faces that in this space where we navigate unbelief, lack of belief, life without God. It is nice to see people that are just normal people that live a very normal life, but they've taken their time to also do the work. They've figured this out and now speaking on this particular subject. And so, Jeff, thank you so much. I mean, if you weren't speaking, if you weren't out there saying something, it's no way I'd have come across you, Jeff. No way. There's no way. And so it had to be something. I just love waking up in the mornings and tuning in and seeing you on Thinker's Live. And Thinker, I've had Thinker on here, right? I've had Thinker on
She's
here.
amazing.
Oh, she is. She is. She is. She's doing a fantastic job. She is. Oh, wow. It is. What she is doing is profound.
Hmm.
It is profound. A lot more people are going to start to figure out that religion was was a pack of lies for the most part. Yeah, she's doing a fantastic job over there. Yeah, someone's Alpha Champ says think you should be a teacher, right? And Alpha Champ says I love seeing Jeff on Thinkers Live. Alpha
Thank
Champ,
you.
yes, and thank you. I love Alpha Champ. Absolutely love you as well. She's good at debunking religion, exactly. Maya says Jeff is cool. He should come back to YouTube. Maybe I can't say that word. Simul stream like Esther. Yeah, there's a way to get the. But Jeff, you should consider having people just come on your platform. Just the same thing what Thinker does. I tell you, you will come across. Anyway, I don't know if you used to do that sort of thing before.
Hmm.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
not
show that
because you.
when I go live on myself
Oh
on
yes,
TikTok,
yes. I've seen your
the
shows. I've seen your
it
shows. Yes, I've
yeah,
been there a few times. Yes.
I call it render an argument, and
Mm,
that's all I care about. Like when I do my shows, I don't care about like the touchy feely stuff. I only care about the argument. That's it.
right.
And
So make sure
so
you follow, guys.
yeah,
Okay. Anyway, people, you all, thank you all so much. And Jeff, thank you for coming to share with us. Um, and please make sure to come back. We can, have a
absolutely.
conversation about, especially the Nigerian space. Nigeria. Oh, goodness gracious me. You seem to have a bit of, um, you know, knowledge on the
Hmm.
Nigerian scene. And so that is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I grew up in Nigeria, and the state of the religious space, that religion, it is. Listen, if you think in America you've got a problem on this side, oh,
Yeah,
mm, mm,
one hundred
it's
percent.
bad. It's bad.
I 100% know what you're talking
It's
about.
bad. Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. Yes, happy Pride. Yes, happy Pride Month. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy
Yeah.
Pride
Oh gosh, today's the 30th. Pride is over. It's over, isn't it? Oh,
tomorrow. Yeah,
okay. Well, is it? Wait, 30th.
and then oh
How many days does June have? 30,
30. Yeah,
31?
so tomorrow is July 1st.
First, right. Okay. All right, folks, everyone, thank you all so much. Thanks for watching. On your way out, please make sure. Right, right. Yes, completely agree with you, Maya. Pride is never over. Yes, pride is
Facts.
never over. You go out there and fly that flag, right? The flag, the whatever flag it is, trans, lesbian, uh gay, whatever. There's all different flags. And it's
Hmm.
interesting. I can't tell the flags apart. I cannot tell them apart. I think I might be able to tell one or two apart, but I can't tell which one is which. But yeah, they're all, yeah, fly that flag. Absolutely. Right. Anyway, folks, you all enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening. I might come back later on. I'll see how I feel. But yeah, might come back later. All right, folks. You all be good. Yes, this is the trans flag. Yes, this one is the trans flag. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get Esther to come on, but she can never stay away. No. But Maya, you do an amazing job over there. Sometimes it's middle of the night. I wake up from my sleep, and when you wake up and you're scrolling, you can't go back to sleep, and I'm scrolling and I see you on, and I hop in
Hmm.
there. Well, you can't. But if you were on TikTok, you'd have been seeing me coming in, because on TikTok you see everyone coming in, but on
Yeah.
YouTube you don't get that facility. You don't get that. You don't get to see people coming in. But yeah, all right, folks. You all, Mikey, good to see you. It's been a long, long time I haven't seen you, Mikey. But oh, Mikey, I was looking for the link to your channel. I couldn't find it for some reason. Um, I don't know. Maya, do you have a link to Mikey's his channel? Because I was trying to find it, and I think folks should follow him as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I couldn't. Mikey, and to my diaspora Asante Sana. You posted it? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Maya. Thank you. Right, guys, make sure to look for the link. You grab it again. Okay, thank you. The link to, and Jeff, you should check him out. You should check Mikey out. Mikey does, conversations, especially politics. And
Oh,
that's not
nice.
that's not my own cup of tea. I let the people who can do it, I let them handle it. I let them handle those conversations. But it's always
That's
interesting.
awesome.
He gets all different people engaging in conversation, and I think it's amazing. We need more people, especially now with the Jeff, uh who do you think is going to be next president of the US? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I have no idea. No clue. I've looked at the numbers every which way. This is so volatile.
Mm.
I don't know. I suppose after July 11th we'll have more information, because that's when I can't even believe I'm saying this. That's
What's
when I
happening
think
on July 11th?
that's when I think Trump's sentencing is scheduled.
Oh, okay.
Can't even believe
Okay.
it's
Mm,
it's
mm, mm.
it's insane to me that I'm saying, like, hey, the presidential candidate, his sentencing is scheduled for a
Can
specific
you
date.
imagine? Can you
But
imagine?
yeah, so I actually have no idea. There's so many wild cards here, and after the debate the other night, it's even more up in the air. So, like, no clue, no clue. If I didn't live in this country, I would look at it like something that was entertaining. But
Mm, mm.
but this is not really funny.
But there was something you said which was very important. Someone had made the comment in the chat, oh, if Trump becomes president, we are doomed. But you said no, not to look at it that way, right?
No.
Not to look at it that way. It's not the it's not doom and gloom. It's not the worst, yeah, just have a positive outlook, whatever the outcome, you stay positive and just
Yeah,
keep on going, just keep on going.
absolutely.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many times the NFL strikes, there's
Hmm.
always going to be a Super Bowl.
Jeff, do you know Delvin Cox?
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
No, no. Impeachment time part 2. Okay. Right. Your team, the 99%, so you're voting Biden. Okay. I mean, if I could vote, that's who I'd be voting for. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's not my it's not my I'm nowhere near that country to be voting at all. So yeah. Alpha Chan says, I am black and a trans woman. So if Trump becomes president, Alpha Cham, you've got us. We are together. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
All in this together. Um, right. Check out Project 2025 and try to stay positive. Okay. Right. Okay. Exactly. We got you. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Um, Jeff, thank you once again.
Thank you for
Right.
having me. I
Yes.
had a
Oh no,
blast.
thank you. This has been good. And now I look forward to catching one of your conversations on there. I know yeah, I know you'll be on there, chopping it up later with somebody. So yes, I will be looking out for those conversations. All right, bye bye everyone. Bye.
every second I know you feel the beat. Do you feel the rhythm all the way? Can you see the vision? Everything in this world will be okay. Can we be together all the way? I know you feel this movement right here. You just be vibing, reaching for something.